All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome in. Welcome to the corner of Garden and West. You have tuned into the episode 4 of the Garden and West podcast. I did say at the beginning I wasn't for sure how many episodes I would end up doing. I knew 5 for sure. Um, this wasn't included in the 5. Um, this is kind of one I'm doing just because um, just want to talk about some things. Um, if you followed me on social media for a while, you know I used to do these things where um, I would call them full disclosure type of posts, where I would just kind of either vent or go into something about my feelings. Um, so I think we're going to call this like a full disclosure type of post in which I am just going to talk about the growing pains of trying to start a podcast, starting something new at the age of 41. Um, some frustrations and some learning curves that I've had to learn so far just in this first 2 months of learning how to record, film, produce, distribute a podcast. It is a lot more work than I thought going into this, but we will get to that later. Um, but I also didn't think that that would feel a full episode. So, in learning how I want to start shaping um, the podcast, I know in all of my um, I sit down and I type out what I want to talk about and I try and uh, do the flow of the episode. I do want to talk about like current events and things that are happening. Um, but I also want to talk about things that I'm very like passionate about. And one of those things would be and is music. So sitting down thinking, I always joke, if you are, if you follow my personal TikTok page, you will see some of the first videos that I really did was about people not knowing what to expect when they get in my car and what music was going to play because you could get in my car and it could be some Ti, some Bun B, or it could be Taylor Swift. Most likely, it was going to be Taylor Swift, or it was going to be some type of show tune. Um, I was in show choir and performing arts from 6th grade all the way through my senior year in high school. So I love musicals. I love soundtracks. Um, so yeah, I'm really big into listening to music. So I wanted to start off with what am I listening to right now? What are some of my favorite songs? What is in my I like to create playlist. And right now one of my playlists is titled Current Rotation, and it is just songs that when I get in a car by myself, these are the songs that I want to hear. Um, and I don't mind. Now, my wife and my kids, if they're in the car with me, they don't like the fact I can listen to the same songs over and over. I can listen to the same song back to back. It don't really bother me, especially if I really enjoy the song. It does not bother me. I can listen to it nonstop. So on my current rotation playlist right now, the songs that I'm playing the most, of course, um I am still hooked on the Drake projects, Iceman and Habiti, those two for sure. Maid of Honor, not really my speed. I'm really um not really a dance hall Drake person, but hip hop Drake and R&B Drake I can listen to all the time. So I really been on Iceman and Habiti a lot. Shebang plays in my car at least 3 times a day. I am still rocking Shebang. I would be really surprised if that's not in like my top 5 most played songs right now, and I'm pretty sure um, at the end of the year when people do their uh, music wraps, I am pretty sure that that's going to be definitely probably top three most played songs for the year. I If something has a good beat and I can really um, just vibe with the beat. I don't even pay attention a lot of the times to um, the lyrics. I know that sounds weird, but for shebang, I actually enjoy the lyrics and the beat itself. It's the same way with Nikki Heaton. She put out a song called John Wayne. I'm a fan. She has a older album. I believe it's called Lullabies. I could be wrong on that. Um, but I've enjoyed her R&B stuff. She put out a song. It's kind of a country song. Tatiana loves it. But I like the beat. It's a country beat. I like country. I enjoy country. Born and raised in West Virginia, you kind of can't escape country, especially if you were raised in West Virginia, early 90s, early 2000s. The only acts that came through West Virginia were country artists. They really never invited in um, rap artists, hip hop artists. Um, I remember, man, we were still living in Washington Manor. Um, Shout out to my Manor babies. Um, but we were still living in Washington Manor, and we would all the community center by the manor was the King Center. And all of us who lived in those projects would go hang out at the King Center, play basketball. They had game rooms, all of that. And I remember we had a kickball team, and it was such a big deal because one of the first major, like, non-country artists to come to Charleston was MC Hammer, and that was such a big deal. Like, MC Hammer coming to Charleston, West Virginia, like, it was on the news station leading up to it for weeks. They covered it for weeks after. I remember, back when artists kinda cared about places they visited, he had a whole bunch of merchandise left over, and so, um, our kickball team all got MC Hammer shirts because he donated merch to um, the community. So we all got MC Hammer shirts. Um, but yeah, living in West Virginia, all you got a lot of times was country artists. So um, I love country music. My uncle Sonny, who I based this podcast on, was a truck driver, and he kind of shaped my um, love for country music because as a truck driver, all he listened to was country because, as he would point out, on the road when you're in between cities and you're in these, you know, cow towns, as he called it, you know, not all these little small cow towns have R&B stations or would have hip hop stations, but everywhere you go, no matter where you're at, everyone's going to have a country station. They're going to have a country station. They're going to have a Christian station. He always listened to country. I remember Earl Had to Die by the Dixie Chicks was one of the first country songs I got hooked on because he would always blast Dixie Chicks. Like, that's what I kind of cut my teeth on when it came to country music. So that's a long tangent to say John Wayne by Nikki Heaton is song that is constantly being played right now when someone gets in my car. If you haven't listened to, I know FIFA World Cup is going on right now, and a whole bunch of artists released music for the World Cup. And Game Time by Future and Tyler is really good. Like, I'm not a huge um, Future fan. I never really been able to get into a lot of his music unless he's a feature. Now, feature, Future, I can dig. Like, whenever he's a feature on a song, he's going to kill those 18 bars that he's going to do and get off the track. And I can take Future in doses like that. But listening to his projects, just him, I'm not gonna run to those. I know he just said that he's gonna release the he has a new album coming out in a month, sometime in, July. So, um, will I listen to it? Probably once through, but do I think that it's gonna be something that gets added to this current rotation playlist? Not really. But this song, "Game Time," is really good, but I also think I really like it because Tyler actually kinda raps on this song. Like, it's not like anything that she's done before, so, um, I really like her verse and her part on the song, so I think that's why it's more so on this current rotation playlist, more so than Future, um, it being his song. Um, Queen by Fat, I don't know how to I refuse to mess up people's names. I'm so particular about, names. I don't like even messing up someone's name, but Tobin Fat, is Fat Song Nagawe. No, I messed that up, but, um, her song Queen, if you've never seen Coming to America, they take She's Your Queen to Be and they flip it, they put it on the beat, and it's Fat in the background singing She's Your Queen to Be, or it's Tobe in the background singing She's Your Queen to Be while, Fat raps. That will probably be, um, that would probably be my most played song of 2026 if I had to guess. Like the beat on that, the nostalgia of She's Your Queen to Be. I had a good friend in college who will, you know, on a good night out, when the drinks were flowing and we were feeling really good, he would just bust out into She's Your Queen to Be. And we would always just laugh until we cried, at him doing that. So that impersonation. So that song is just something that's really good. Like I really like that song, and I'm pretty sure that's probably maybe my top um, song of the year when it's all said and done. There's always that caveat that for the past 5 years Hamilton has dominated those little end of year recaps when it comes to music. For me, I'm a huge musical fan, as I said, and Hamilton is, I mean, I'm listening to that soundtrack constantly. Um, I always joke about me and my wife not having a lot in common. Um, and, but the one thing we kind of built our foundation on, outside of Jesus, of course, one of the things that our relationship, friendship, marriage, the foundation, uh, cornerstone of that is Hamilton. I remember the first night I cooked for her. She came over to my place. I cooked for her. And when I was just like, hey, she asked me, she was like, what do you want to watch while we eat? And I was just like, have you seen Hamilton? And she, of course, lit up and started talking about how much she loves Hamilton. So if you walk into our house during the course of the week, um, I'm pretty sure 2 or 3 days out of the week, when you walk into our house, you're either going to hear Hamilton playing on a musical device, or you will see Hamilton playing um, on a TV. It's just we are constantly um, listening or watching Hamilton. Like so that kind of has dominated anything when it comes to music and those end of year recaps for me. But I really think this may be the first year that something challenges Hamilton for that top spot. And if I had to guess, Queen by Fat is going to be a strong contender. Um, also, anything Teddy Swims is going to be up there. He has a single out now called Mr. Know It All. I'm constantly listening to Teddy Swims. He's one of the few artists that I have met in real life before he signed um, with a major record deal. He always did covers that he posted on YouTube, and right after COVID, he um, came to Dallas and he did a show here in Deep Ellum. in Dallas, and a small little room that held probably about 125, maybe 150 people. And it was so cool because after his show, he literally just walked off the stage, which was some steps on the side of the stage. And he stood there and he signed autographs and he took pictures with everyone. He had actual conversations with everyone. The coworker I went with, we kind of hung out in the back, let everybody else have their um, time. And then we kind of wanted to be the last ones. And he took a picture with us. His dad was there. Me and the coworkers stayed there for like almost 2 hours talking to Teddy Swims and his dad, and he was telling us how he had just gotten signed to a record label and going through, just kind of telling us the process of signing and what was next for him and things like that. And so that was really cool. So anything Teddy Swims, I support and I love. So his single, Mr. Know It All, um, is really good. He's a feature on the Giveon album. Giveon's album is so good. It's just as good as the one he put out last year. This is part two of it. Um, Anything with Giveon, I'm listening to as well. So him and um, Teddy Swims together, I mean, you can't miss. Also on that Giveon project, he has um, a song which features Leon Thomas, and you know anything that Leon Thomas is on right now is a certified smash. It's going to get played. Everyone's going to love that song. Giveon and Tay Swims, Giveon and Leon Thomas. I would have kept the album um, just for those two songs alone, but the whole album, I don't think there's any skips on that Giveon album. Um, so if you are a fan of Giveon and haven't heard that, or if you never listened to Giveon, go out there, get his project. You will thoroughly enjoy um, that project. And again, the song with Leon Thomas is just so good. Matter of fact, again, with Leon Thomas, the Chris Brown album that he recently put out a couple months ago, the only thing out of the 26 songs that was on that album, I only kept 4, and one of those that I actually listen to is the one, with Leon Thomas. So, um, that is music. I mean, again, I'm more of a singles person. For me, my listening process when it comes to an album, I like to listen to it straight through, how the artist intended. And then I'll listen to it twice with shuffle on just to see how it flows on a shuffle state. And that kind of determines if I'm going to keep the whole album in my library. Right now, the only albums I can really think of off the top of my head that I've kept fully in the library is Iceman, Habidi, the Giveon project. I think that's it. I think for the most part, I've nicked and picked other um, parts of albums. I haven't really kept a lot of full albums. Um, that I can think of, which kind of brings me to my next part. We have created, or I have created, a Substack for the podcast. So if you're on Substack, it is under the Garden and West podcast. If you don't know what Substack is, basically what it is a platform in which journalists and writers and people who blog um, write articles for people to subscribe to, or they put out where you can just read um, for free. Some articles by some people are behind paywall. It's been a great tool for people who are not hired or not funded by legacy media or these big publication platforms, um, to be able to write things, to just put political think pieces out, to put op-eds out. Um, so I thought it would be great to create one for the podcast, mainly because, um, as I've said, I kind of just write down what I would like to talk about with Deidre and with T Bear. I just kind of like, here's what I want you to come on and talk about. Here's what I was be thinking. Created a Google Doc. They went in, they added their thoughts. We kind of bounced ideas off of each other, but that was it. There was no real structure to those episodes. And if you listen to the episode with me and Deidre, we cited some material and we cited some numbers, but we didn't really have the material or the reference material to be able to direct people to. So I wanted to create a Substack that way in a natural flow of a conversation when someone is on with me. If we ever reference something that we may have read or some numbers that we may have seen, then we can go in and we can create an article. We can create something on Substack where we put our sources. I mean, and I'll talk about this here in a little bit. I'm a big component of if you're going to use something in an argument or a debate or a think piece, if you're going to cite or mention someone else's work, you need to cite your source. I mean, I will get into heated debates in Facebook news comment sections, and especially nowadays, people just start throwing out numbers or just throwing out, well, this happened, that happened. And my number one response is cite your source. Like, if you're going to say for a matter of fact that this is something that happened or these are the numbers, cite your source. As Deion Sanders, one of my favorite football players of all time, leads top two between him and Mike Allstott. Um, he would always say when he was a news analyst or caller commentator, he would always say, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. Show me the numbers. And so, and yes, sometimes numbers can be manipulated to fit certain narratives, but I'd rather be able to provide someone that source and for people to be able to go and check out what I'm saying or what we may mention um, on an episode. Um, so I want to be able to use Substack for that. I want to be able to use it for times in which maybe we're not putting out an episode or, maybe someone I've had on the show um, has additional information or additional thoughts that they may have with something we discuss. They can, create, write an article, write an op-ed and or provide more material or more insight on what they were trying to say. T Bear, for example, T Bear had notes, and not only not notes that we exchanged before we recorded the episode, but he went in and he had notes in which he, broke down things about the Old Testament and New Testament and his final thought that he put out there. Um, he had that written down. So I do have his notes. He has sent those to me. So I think the first thing I'm going to create on the Substack is just putting out T Bear's notes that he had for our episode in which we talked about the Old Testament versus the New Testament. So I think I want to utilize more of the Substack to just be able to, add a different element to not only podcasting, but just, having conversations with people because you can use comments on there. You can talk back and forth with people on that as well. So I really think that's going to add a different element to this new venture that I will thoroughly enjoy because I think part of why I started this podcast is just to be able to talk with people and get think pieces out there and to just be more intentional on making sure the right information that people get from me or may hear from me is out there and it's accessible for them to um, see for themselves as well as Deidre talked about. Um, and maybe that wasn't on. I don't think that was on the episode that I released, which we'll talk about that with our main topic today. But Deidre mentioned in one of the recordings of the two that we did, you know, a lot of the reason why we're in the political climate that we are in today is because people, A, don't know where to find correct information, or B, they're lazy and they don't want to find the um, correct information. Anyone you talk to that has believed one thing and changed their stance on something, it's because they put in the work to educate themselves to not believe just one side or the other, or just automatically believe that if someone says one thing against one party, that means they support something from another party. And so, um, I feel like being able to provide correct information and information in which I can cite my source is just um, something that I feel is needed given today's climate, which kind of also takes me to what I wanted to discuss also before our main topic is really weird how things are going this past month or so. Um, and again, I don't know if I mentioned it on the episode with Deidre that got released, but I made a joke with Deidre that if you ever see me like with a red hat on, red MAGA hat on, it's because I'm trying to make a quick buck. And it seems like grifting and being racist is the quickest way to make a buck in our society right now, because there's been three stories over the past 2 weeks that have occurred that is wild how people's racism have has led to them banking hundreds and thousands of dollars. The first one that I'm pretty sure everyone saw was uh, the massage therapist who was in her scrubs, was in HEB here in Texas, and saw two women in there her job, and she went up to them for no other reason but to tell them they're not welcome here. They should go back um, to their own country, and people hate them. And she spewed all of this racist hate towards them. And the internet did what it does, and they found who she was. They found where she worked. Her employment terminated her not only because of her racist um, speech, but also because she brought all this negativity to their business. They don't. No business wants to put up with that. And within 48 hours of being fired for her being racist, there was a crowdfunding for her that reached over $175,000, which, I mean, I'm not too for sure what massage therapists make, but I'm pretty sure it's not $175,000. And that was just after 48 hours. I have no idea what the final number ended up being, but she was racist. She faced consequences. Racism is not freedom of speech, is hate speech, and there are consequences for that. But nowadays, if you are of a particular race, calls for a dramatic effect for some people to get that. But if you are of a particular race and you are racist towards people, you hit a lick. And if you don't know what I mean by hit a lick, for those who aren't in with the culture, hit a lick means you hit a come up. You found a way to make a quick buck. You hit a lick. And that woman hit a lick for being racist. And then literally like 2 or 3 days after the video comes out of the husband and wife who approached some neighbors who were moving into their home. I believe the neighbors were Somalian. And he starts telling them they're not welcome in the neighborhood, go back to where they came from. He starts attacking them with um, hate speech, being racist. And again, people find out who they are, and there's crowdfunding, and there's another $100,000 plus for that couple. And then literally 3 days after them, there's a black man fishing on the beach. He set up his poles. The lifeguards come and they tell him, "Hey, you can't set up here. You need to go." And they walk him to a point in which they go, "You can set up here." Um, they go, I believe they set him up outside of the area in which they patrol. So they're like, we don't patrol this area because there's not typically people swimming in this area. I think it was more closer to the boardwalk where I think, the tide and the undertide is a little rougher so people don't swim. And so he sets up his poles. He's fishing for a while, and then all of a sudden, here comes some little kids, and they're running around his fishing equipment and poles and his line that he has in the water. And up comes a white man telling him to move and that he needs to move. And the black man tells him no, because this is where he was told it was okay for him to set up by the lifeguards who patrolled the beach. And this man starts claiming he's a firefighter and he has the authority to tell this black man to move. And the black man says, "Where's your badge?" And then all of a sudden, here comes the man's wife, and she just goes straight into calling him a nigger. And I thought about playing that word, or I thought about saying just the N word, but no, I'm going to say the whole thing. Literally walks up and just calls him a nigger over and over. Why? Because he's not listening to them, even though they have no authority to tell him to move. And again, people find out who these people are. They get crowdfunding, they get $100,000 plus. So it's like the quickest way to make a buck right now is to be racist if you're of a particular race. If you look more like me, is to put a hat on and talk about people who look like you and get support. That's why, again, in the episode that I talk to Deidre with, um, I told her, things are going to be really rough for me if you ever see me put on that hat, because you don't got to do it long. If you notice, black people who grift don't grift for long. They get their money and they get out, and then you don't really hear from them again. So I've always had that long-standing jokes with people who I typically discuss politics with, that if you ever see that, just know, I'm trying to make a quick buck and then I'm going to get out, because it's the quickest way to make some money right now is to either be racist or to grift, because people don't really care if you actually believe what you say, as long as what you say agrees with what they believe. I mean, a video came out 2 weeks ago of Riley Gaines being fed her lines about what she strongly believes in, and they had to tell her the talking points. Like, the woman doesn't care about anything that she says. She doesn't actually believe anything that she says. All she knows is she's going to get in front of a camera, she's going to say what they tell her, and she's going to get paid for it. And she's turned that into a full-time career, all because she became in fifth place. Fifth place in um, a national championship is pretty good. I'm not going to say she's not athletic or she was bad at swimming, because she made the national championship, so she had some talent. It's just that talent went out the window the second she figured out there was money to be made in grifting. And now that's all she does. She doesn't do anything else. Um, so yeah, it's just really weird that this is where we're at. Even last night, before having to re-record this, which again, we're getting ready to get into that, it's interesting because they just announced that the GOP is going to um, the GOP is going to have a midterm convention here in Dallas. And I put a comment in that said, tell me that the GOP is worried about Texas flipping in this Tallarico versus Paxton race without telling me that they're worried. Because typically the political party is going to choose to have their convention in a state um, where they need a little bit more messaging to be out to those people in that surrounding area. Um, they need those people to see their platform, to see them rallying the people in that area to get out the vote. And numbers have shown that when Trump is not on the ballot, the GOP typically has not fared too well. Um, and so I think that they're worried that Texas may actually flip a seat with this James Tallarico versus um, Ken Paxton vote. And it was weird because I didn't say that I support the Democrats. I didn't even say really anything negative about Republicans other than I think they're worried. And the amount of people who literally just jumped on that comment, and one guy was like, "Oh, you should cry some more." And I'm like, "Who's crying?" He's like, "You're crying." I'm like, "I don't see how I'm crying." I just like put out I thought, I thought on the announcement, and then another woman jumped in and just put MAGA all through her comment, and I'm like, "You're in a cult." Like, that's crazy to me. One guy put a picture of Trump up, and I'm like, "So you just walk around with pictures of this other man in your phone?" That's weird to me. Another guy straight up was just like, "You're a jackass," and I'm like, okay, that's some strong emotions. Only to then, and I know I'm not the only one that does this, but when someone just types something really stupid, I'll check out their profile. I'll look at their profile pic because typically they all fit a certain profile, no pun intended. But he literally was like, "You're a jackass," and then you look at his profile picture, and it's him standing in front of a cross, and I'm like, I mean, it figures again, they all usually fit a certain profile. But I was just like, that's hilarious to me that not because I said one thing in favor of another party versus a different party. I just said I think they're worried about it. That's it. And this guy who had Bible verses all throughout his profile and daily Bible devotions just goes around calling people jackasses. And that's half the reason why I don't really put a lot of, I'll post like if I'm doing my Bible study just for accountability reasons. I typically post my Bible in a year and what day I'm on, but I don't do a lot because I know my mouth is slick and I will let some cuss words fly if I'm emotional. I have no qualms about it. I know it's something I need to work on. But yeah, I will cuss. And so therefore, you won't find a lot of things like crosses and Bible verses on my social media simply because, you know, I'd rather people have an idea of who I am based off of what I'm saying versus coming to my profile because I know other people do it too, versus coming to my profile and seeing that I'm just this warrior for God, but I'm sitting out here cussing people out. I just not my cup of tea, so I don't do that. Um, so yeah, it was just really weird. But then there was one guy who came in and he had an opposing view from my comment, and I responded to him with, a counterpoint to what he said. And his response was just, "Hey, I'm glad we were able to have a civil conversation about this." He was just like, "You don't see that nowadays. You don't see people who can have a civil conversation about, politics." And I'm like, that is sad. It is sad to me that people don't even think that there can be a civil conversation amongst people just simply because they may disagree uh, politically. I think that is sad. I think it is unfortunate. Um, but it kind of just tells you the day and age that we're in. So yeah, it was really interesting to me. But I always thought, yeah, if I ever needed to do anything in which, there was some money to be made, I think I'm going to just grift for a little bit. So anyone listening to this, again, if you ever see a picture of me out there with a red hat on, just know I don't believe what I'm saying. And especially I got two girls. One's about to be um, sophomore, the other one's about to be a freshman. They both graduate back to back years. So I got two girls about to go to college. I'm gonna need some tuition money or at least some funds to help them with some living expenses while they're in college. So I may need to hit a lick. And so if you see in the next 2 years or so that I switch up my thought process again, I don't believe it. I just, need to take advantage of some racists who, and I always say this, there's nothing racists love more than a black person talking about a black person. I know people kind of are more supporting her nowadays, but look at Candace Owens. I mean, she built a platform off of suing because she got racially profiled, only to then turn around uh, and become a spokesperson for a black person hating on another black person, and black people loving it. Again, some of her content nowadays is a little bit more enjoyable, but still remember where she came from. But all of that, it has nothing to do with our main topic. To get to our main topic, which is trying to, at 41, learn how to film a podcast, record a podcast, edit a podcast, distribute a podcast. That has been some of the most challenging um, waters to navigate that I've had to in a long time, which is saying something because it's not like it's a life altering thing for me to have to learn how to record or edit podcasts. Because really, if you are an 80s baby, a 90s kid, um, it's not new to us. The idea of monetizing um, things that we record and videos that we make, that is new. But I mean, in high school and in college, Windows Media, you made videos all the time. I always would make videos, especially before there was Facebook, before there was Instagram. Hell, you couldn't even do it on MySpace, I don't think. Um, I used to take videos and pictures of me and friends, had to scan them into the computer, um, had to upload the videos to the computer, put it in Windows Media, and I would make videos and I would make highlight reels of parties, especially in college, especially in college. I was that friend that always had a camera in his hand, especially the semester that I went sober and I didn't drink that whole semester. I was always the sober one, and I always had a camera in my hand. I have what we call, my group of friends, we call it the vault. Like, I have the vault where I'm pretty sure I could end careers with what is in this vault of pictures and videos of uh, people from college who are now directors of um, programs for schools, uh, soccer clubs. I have high school principals. I have some high, like, foundation people. Like, I have videos and I have photos of a lot of people um, that only I have access to. Because why? Everything had to be kept on a CD ROM, or it had to be kept on a jump drive. I still have all of that. And so I'm used to putting videos and highlights together. That wasn't new to me. But trying to do it at 41, learning equipment, I'm not a sound guy. I know people see that I'm on production at church, the production team at church. I don't deal nothing with the cameras or the sounds, not my area expertise. So learning the sounds, I just learned that I can hook my phone up to this equipment and I can play music while I record, but I don't even wanna test it right now because I'm pretty sure I would mess up the sound somehow, because you gotta turn, one knob down, turn the music up, and then fade the music out while turning the other knob up. I don't have it in me right now to learn that. Maybe one of these days I'll sit down and try and figure that out so I can play some music when I talk about music. I would love to play some of the songs that I talked about at the beginning of this, but then also I got to learn the rules. I believe if I post this on YouTube, I can't play the music because it gets copyright, but if it's on a digital streaming platform like Apple or Spotify, then I can play the music. But then in editing of the video, I would have to learn how to mute the music while uh, talking. It's just a whole lot that I don't have in me right now. Um, Even when I mean, one of the reasons why I do not have a guest with me today is because I needed a break. I had to record, the episode with Deidre. The first time we sat down, I believe that episode was, uh, we recorded for an hour and 55 minutes. Um, the first 15 to 20 minutes of the episode was cool, but then all of a sudden there was, like, this horrible echo, um, that popped out of nowhere, and I couldn't figure out how to take the echo out. And so editing that episode, it went from like an hour, 55 minutes down to like a 55-minute video, and so much of what we talked about got cut out. And that's the episode I ended up releasing. Um, oh no, I didn't release that episode, but it got down to like 55 minutes. And so I literally had to um I called Deidre and I used my best friend card, as I said in the episode that did get released. I was like, "Hey," it's like, "This happened. There's a horrible echo out of nowhere. We have to re-record." Like, I was so frustrated. I have this thing. I'm not OCD. I got a little tism, but not OCD. But I can't. If I know something should be one way, and the episode even edited down to 55 minutes, I thought was still pretty good. Just something in me couldn't it didn't sit right. So we re-recorded, and I believe that and even then we went to a different platform, recorded it, and then I uploaded to the platform that I've been paying for to um to then have that edit there and then release it. And even then, we talked for like 2 hours, and we almost talked for almost 3 hours. And then I believe the episode was an hour, 48 minutes, hour or something like that. Um, but even then, there wasn't an echo, but there was still some sound issues, but I was able to, uh, work around it. And so then when it came to T-Bear, so with T-Bear, the way it worked out, it was really interesting. If you caught the beginning of me and T-Bear's episode, I talked about how it was weird that me and him were recording episode 3 before me and Deidre had re-recorded episode 2. And so I recorded with T-Bear, and I spent 3 hours, 3.5, almost 4 hours editing the episode with T-Bear because there was another echo. We thought that the reason that there was an echo with Deidre's episode was because she was just talking without, headphones, like, she didn't record with any headphones in, so I was trying to learn that maybe me speaking through her computer, um speakers, it picked up, and that was the echo. Could not figure out where the echo came from. So with T Bear, I was like, "Hey, make sure you have headphones." And T Bear leads praise and worship at his church. On top of being other wearing other hats, and so he knows a little about sound. So when he started to record, he was like, "Hey, there's an echo." I turned down some things and worked some things out. He was like, "Okay, I don't hear myself. That sounds good." So we started recording. And lo and behold, after we record, I go to edit his episode. And literally, again, 25 minutes into the recording, all of a sudden, there's an echo. And it hurt even bat badder. It hurt even more with T Bear because the echo came in on some of the best parts of what T Bear was saying. So it was I wanted to cry. Uh, I don't hide my emotions. I will never be a man to be like, hides the fact that sometimes he gets emotional, sometimes he will cry. I think everyone needs a good cry. Just kind of go off on a tangent. Again, talking about college years, if anyone remembers Dane Cook and his Madison Square Garden um, stand up, he had a joke about, you know, sometimes he goes home and he goes, I did my best. I did my best. Sometimes you just need a good cry. Sometimes you just need to curl up, tell the world you did your best, but now it's time to cry. And I haven't felt that way in a long time. Um, More so a little bit more here recently, but I just wanted to cry for 3 hours of editing, 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours of editing with T Bear's episode. Um, Hearing the echo, it took out the good things um, that I believe he has said. And so edit his episode and then I re recorded with Deidre. And so then, of course, I then edited Deidre's and released her episode. So then once wanted to release T Bear's episode, I put out the teaser videos. Um, and I wake up Saturday morning because I'm going to release it Saturday morning. And I wake up and I go to the episode and I start doing everything that I knew that I needed to do to export it, download it, and then upload it. And so then I go to export it out of the platform that I record on, and it gives me this message that says something about error, no phasing. And I have no idea what that means. It said phasing error. And I was like, what does that mean? And so, of course, I go to your chat GBT, Claude, Google AI, and I'm figuring out what does this mean? All to learn that after I edit it and it's saved to the cloud, the recording platform that I use, the file became corrupt. And then again, I wanted to cry because I'm like, I'm going to have to call T Bear and I'm going to have to tell him that we have to re record. And I was so frustrated, but I decided to just kind of learn okay, I'm spending the rest of this Saturday afternoon learning how can I fix this? Is there a way to fix this? I spent 2 hours reading everything, trying to figure things out, only to learn that, hey, um, I use my iPad for everything. I got a keyboard. It acts as a laptop for me, but I keep forgetting that the iPad is not a actual laptop. And so when I went to this recording platform that I use, and I'm not saying her name because they ain't not paying me yet. Um, but when I went to uh, their site, they were like, "You have to go and edit this on a computer." And I was like, "Well, I did what I always knew to do, the little workaround. I hit requested desktop version on the recording platform, and it would just take me to the app." And so I was like, "Hey, Google AI, can I do it on an iPad?" And it was like, "No, you need something that actually is a laptop you can use," which is weird to me because Apple iOS for iPad and iPhones is still the same system, I thought, as to what they use on MacBooks. But it's like, no, you actually have to use a MacBook or you have to edit on an actual laptop that has like a Windows system. So I came home. My wife has one. I have an old Chromebook. Chromebook to me, I couldn't use my Chromebook because Chromebook literally is just the Android system. And my Chromebook is a 2019. It's so old, it doesn't even update anymore. Like, I'm gonna have to get a new laptop to continue this venture. But my wife has a laptop because she's addicted to Sims, and so um, I had to pry that away from her and ask her to give Sims a break for a little bit. And I get on her laptop and the interface of the recording platform is totally different. It looks totally different. It looks like an actual editing studio. So then I have to learn the voice tracks, where are the voice tracks? How do I span the voice tracks? Then through all of this, after 2 hours of research, after an hour even figuring out where the voice tracks was on this new interface, I learned how to edit out the echo. So the full episode with T Bear that was released was the episode that we actually recorded. I learned to edit out the echo. I was so happy. I've actually, and I hit up Deidre immediately and I was like, "You're not going to guess this shit." I was like, my goodness, the morning I had. So again, I vent to my best friend about this, and it was a great idea she had. I think I'm going to take one of these Saturdays and I'm going to actually go in and edit the first episode that me and her recorded. Um, and I think I want to release that one because, again, I think there was so much that we talked about in that first recording that we didn't touch on in the second recording because, again, we don't have verbatim what we're talking about or what we're going to say or how we say it. We just have general topics that we want to hit. And when you have two best friends talking, we went off on many tangents that we didn't go off on in the first episode, and vice versa. There are tangents in the first episode that we went off on that we didn't touch on the second episode. And if you listen to the second episode or the second recording that was released, we often try and refer back to what we said in the first recording. So I think I'm going to take and re uh, going to edit that out and kind of release that um, here soon. But yeah, it was just really interesting trying to figure out how to edit these things, how to um, record the sound. Even this episode that I am filming right here at this moment, this is a second time I am recording this because I recorded on Sunday and after church. Sundays are kind of my days that I found that works for everybody to record, especially for me. I'm able to come home from church. We come home, we usually grab food on the way home from church. I know my wife, like the back of my hand, my wife is going to come in, she's going to change, and she's going to turn on uh, Abbott Elementary, and she's going to take a nap because we serve and we're at the church at 6:30 in the morning. So about time we get home at 12, 12:30, she's ready for a nap. So it gives me time to record without any type of movement going on around me. Um, but yeah, I recorded this episode on Sunday, only to then, wake up Monday, go to edit the episode to learn that I did not have the correct cord hooked up to the microphone. And so it sounded like I was in a tunnel because when I was talking, even though the mic was turned on and I could hear myself in my headphones, it was using the iPad mic. And so it just sounded like a very bad recording of someone in a tunnel talking because our dining room where I record echoes. And so I wanted to just toss everything out the window and say, I'm not doing this anymore. It also made me think about I have a friend that recently started a podcast and she started going to a studio to record because they have all the different angles, they have the professional sound, they can edit the episode for you, they can do all of that for you. I don't have the capital to do that at the moment, maybe one day. um, but I actually was like, I need to think about maybe doing that. I know some people here in Dallas that run a event space, and they have a photography studio, and they have a place where people can record podcasts. So I know I would get a great deal. I thought about hitting them up and like, okay, I'm just going to. What can you do for me? What can we work out that I can just start coming in and recording at your studio? But at the same time, I kind of like my setup. My wife's big ass mirrors behind me. I have my photos behind me, recording in my dining room. I like the aesthetics of it all. If an old person can try and sound cool real quick, I like the aesthetics. I like how it looks. I like having the Dirty Dancing painting behind me that a friend did for me. Um, I like that, but the headache of trying to learn some of this has been hard to the point that I was like, okay, next episode, I don't want to guess, but I really didn't have much to talk about. So I was like, I want to talk about growing pains and learning curves because I had a friend that I was venting to about, everything that's going on and all the mistakes I was making and all the times I had to re record. And they basically told me, they was like, well, this is just something that everyone goes through before they, hit their stride. She's like, you can't get to the finish line without first running the race. Like, you don't get to jump from the starting line to the finish line. Like, in between there, you have to run the race. And the running the race for me and running the race in this, running the race for um, everyone looks different depending on the race you're running, right? Of course. So running a race for me in this space is learning sound, learning eventually how to play music, learning eventually how to better support uh, my editing, learning what I'm eventually may, if I want to really continue this, I'm going to have to invest in, eventually maybe a different camera in which that I record on or a different microphone, different lighting. Going to have to get an actual laptop in which I'm able to actually edit. I'm going to have to put some capital in it. Um, I'm also going to have to take some time and learn more about audio, about what the different knobs and buttons on this sound card do. One have to put in a lot of extra time in which, before I can get to that finish line, I'm going to have to continue to run this race. But part of also running this race was for this episode, I didn't want to have to try and deal with editing someone else in, editing someone's voice, the taking the chance, even though I know now how to edit out the echo. Um, I didn't want to have to do it if I didn't have to. I'm very excited though about um, the next episode. I already have a friend, an old coworker coming in. June was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Me and him both have some history with mental I guess, yeah, mental illness that has affected us one way or another, be it ourselves or be it close friends that we had in our lives. So that will be the next episode is kind of touching on the importance of men's mental health and how it has affected us, steps we have taken, doors it has opened for us. So I'm very excited about that episode because I feel like, especially when you recently had someone like Joe Rogan, um, talking about he hates the idea of men's mental health awareness, and he thinks it makes men soft and are providers, and that's just the nature of it, which I don't disagree necessarily with that, but I disagree with um, being a provider means I can't be aware of my mental health and I can't choose to um, manage my mental health effectively and that I can make sure that I'm doing everything I can to make sure I can provide. And part of making sure I can provide is making sure that I'm able to provide, which means I have to be able to mentally be able to sustain myself and sustain my family. Um, so I think that's a really important topic. So I'm really excited to sit down with my friend and go over and just talk about um, this topic that is gaining more traction nowadays. But just really excited to talk about it and hear something from someone else who is willing to also be open. With what they've experienced with mental illness, not only within themselves, but those around them. So that will be coming up soon. Um, Again, my goal was to get that episode recorded and out within the month of June. But again, having to re record, re edit, just daily life, I was not able to get that done. That again is part of running this race that I'm currently running. Um, but I'm excited. I'm excited about what's coming up, what's in store, new ideas. I'm excited about the stuff Substack and getting that up and running and getting that as something else people can um, sink their teeth into and just kind of learn more about who I am, the guests I have on, the topics um, that we talk about. I kind of want to start doing something where I kind of just end the episode with a story or a funny memory about, sitting on the front porch with my Uncle Sonny and my dad, or just other elders and other um, people who were of importance to me that have brought me to this point where I'm now, modeling this new adventure after things that I experienced with these people. And I sat there and I was like, what would be a appropriate like first memory to really share? And of course, I wanted to talk about my Uncle Sonny. Um, and I feel it's appropriate that the first memory I share is about him. Um, And I remember that when we first moved beside my Uncle Sonny, when we first moved on Garden Street, I was playing football. And so my Uncle Sonny had went out and he had bought new weights. So he had bought some dumbbells, some free weights, a bench press, a couple curl bars. And so me and Cliff would go in the basement of my Uncle Sonny's house and we would work out. And I remember we went over there one, Saturday morning, to work out, and there was, like, a hole in his wall, and so he figured out, he's a country boy, he was like, "I have to have a rat," and so he set a trap, and so, we went over there the next day, and the trap was gone, and we couldn't figure out how the trap was gone. Like, it wasn't there anymore, and maybe like 2 days later, he had reset the trap, and a couple days we went over and we were down there and we were working out again, and we heard the trap go off, and about time we looked in the corner, all you saw was this tail of this rat, and the tail had to be probably 8 to 10 inches, like, it was long, and this was a big rat. And so my Sonny started saying this was his Moby Dick. And that was the name he gave this rat that he attempted to catch for like 2 weeks because the rat was so big that those little mouse traps and those little sticky pads that, mouse or normal rats would run over did not hold this thing. And every day, and of course, me being younger, I didn't even know what he meant by Moby Dick. It wasn't until maybe 2 or 3 years later in school learning about the story of Moby Dick and the white whale and all of that. And so it was just one of those things that, I mean, it took over like the front porch conversations. Like, they would sit on the porch talking for hours about what they can do to catch this damn rat. And I mean, we had so much fun laughing at all the ideas that they were trying to come up with how they were going to catch this rat. And I wish my memory allowed me to like to remember how they did. I just know that eventually they caught the rat, and Uncle Sonny was so happy that he um, cooked dinner for the whole family. Like, my Uncle Sonny was also a chef. He was a truck driver. He was a Black Panther. He was a business owner. He also was a chef. I used to love kind of going off on another memory. Um, he used to cook for the family. He would invite over his brother and my friends and their kids, and he would invite us over. My mom, my dad, my sister, um, and he would call it Anton's. Because Anthony was his first name. And so when he would cook for us, and it would be something real, real fancy. He always cooked it's like pheasants, Fezzentzon. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but he would always cook something real fancy for us, and he would always tell us, "Come over to Anton's." And anytime you heard him say Anton's, you knew we were about to eat really good for that night. But when he caught this rat, he set up Anton's for the whole family, and he cooked for everyone. He literally threw a party because he caught this rat. He finally caught his white whale. Um, and I just remember that because, again, them sitting on the porch trying to come up with schemes with how they were going to catch this rat was just so funny to me. But again, it's also where I first learned about Moby Dick for the first time and what he meant about catching his white whale. So about time I actually learned about it in school, I had already had a picture of the overall theme and underlying meaning of the story of Moby Dick. It was just another way he taught me something that I learned way before it was taught to me in a classroom. So that was just one of the memories that came to my mind that I just thought was hilarious because um, it was a good time. And those 3 weeks or so that it took for them to catch this damn thing was had the whole street abuzz when he finally caught it. So that was one of the great memories I had just about someone who has really um, imparted a lot on my life. So we will end episode 4 with that. Look forward to the next episode, as I said. And again, eventually, one of these days within these episodes, I'm not going to feel the need to thank everyone who reaches out to me in between episodes, but I really do thank the continual feedback that I get, the encouragement that I get, people who are reaching out and sending text messages and messages talking about how they connected with a certain story or topic that we have discussed. So I really do. I thank people for that encouragement. Y'all can consider yourselves those people who come and watch their friends run races and marathons, and give them they make signs for them and they follow them through the course. So I really feel like if I'm going to continue to run this race, I really am thankful for those who have come to watch and hold signs and send positive messages. So again, maybe one day I won't feel the need to do that, but we're not there yet. So until now, you're just gonna have to deal with me thanking you every week or every time there's an episode for the continual support. But as we always say when we end an episode, every corner has a story, and this has been mine.